You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This ancient wisdom from Marcus Aurelius addresses something every person struggles with in our hyper-connected age: the difference between reactive chaos and unshakable presence. I learned this the hard way during a presentation that should have launched my career. Standing before 50 executives, I felt my heart hammering as technical difficulties dragged on. The room grew restless. My mind raced through backup plans, apologies, damage control strategies. Then something shifted. I stopped trying to control the situation and simply stood there, shoulders back, breathing steady, completely still for exactly 3 seconds. The room fell silent. Not because I'd said anything brilliant, but because I'd discovered what Marcus Aurelius understood 2,000 years ago. True power comes from inner stillness, not external performance. That 3-second pause of complete presence changed everything, not just the meeting, but my understanding of what it means to command respect in a world that rewards the loudest voice. Have you ever noticed how certain people can walk into a room and immediately shift the energy without saying a word? What you're witnessing isn't charisma or confidence tricks. It's the practical application of ancient Stoic wisdom about presence, translated into modern body language psychology. Chapter 2. The Performance Theater of Modern Life. We live in what I call the performance theater, a culture where everyone's acting like they have their lives together, but the constant need to perform has actually destroyed our ability to be present. Watch any business meeting, social gathering, or even casual conversation. People fidget with phones, interrupt constantly, shift posture every few seconds, fill every pause with nervous laughter or meaningless words. We've become so addicted to doing something that we've forgotten the power of simply being someone. Have you ever caught yourself checking your phone mid-conversation because the silence felt uncomfortable? The performance theater demands that you prove your worth through constant motion, speaking up, networking, showcasing achievements, optimizing your personal brand. But here's the psychological twist that most people miss. This constant performance anxiety creates the exact opposite of what we're trying to achieve. Instead of commanding respect, we're broadcasting insecurity through every micro gesture. Nothing says, "I'm totally confident," like frantically checking your reflection in your laptop screen before a video call. The beautiful irony of our achievement culture is that we've turned being present into another performance metric to optimize. Modern neuroscience has discovered something fascinating about presence that validates ancient Stoic insights. When we're in a state of inner calm, our nervous system sends signals through micro-expressions, posture, and even pheromones that other people unconsciously recognize as strength. But when we're performing or anxious, we broadcast entirely different signals, no matter how well we think we're hiding it. Think about the last time someone's presence genuinely impressed you. They probably weren't performing at all. They were simply completely there. The performance theater has convinced us that presence equals performance. But Marcus Aurelius understood something that our achievement-obsessed culture has forgotten. True commanding presence comes from the exact opposite: the ability to be completely still in your own skin while chaos swirls around you. What if everything you've been taught about making a strong impression is actually sabotaging your natural ability to command a room? Chapter 3. The Psychology of Unshakable Presence. Marcus Aurelius didn't just theorize about presence, he lived it. As Roman emperor, he commanded armies, navigated political intrigue, and led an empire while maintaining what he called the citadel of the self, an inner fortress of calm that external circumstances couldn't breach. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology has only recently validated. Genuine presence isn't about projecting confidence or managing impressions. It's about achieving what they called ataraxia, unshakable tranquility that comes from distinguishing between what you can and cannot control. Here's where it gets psychologically sophisticated. When you truly internalize this distinction, your body language automatically shifts. You stop the unconscious fidgeting, defensive posturing, and attention-seeking behaviors that signal insecurity. Instead, you develop what I call gravitational presence. People are drawn to your stillness because it represents something rare in our chaotic world: genuine peace. Have you ever noticed how people who are genuinely secure in themselves move differently through the world? They're not performing security, they're simply being secure, and everyone around them feels it. The emperor wrote in his personal journal about a specific technique he used before important meetings or battles. He would pause, breathe deeply, and remind himself, "I cannot control how others respond, but I can control my own mind and presence." This wasn't positive thinking, it was practical psychology. When your mind is truly calm, your body reflects that calm. When you're not seeking approval, you don't display approval-seeking behaviors. When you're comfortable with uncertainty, you don't fill every silence with nervous chatter. Marcus Aurelius called this the discipline of action, acting from inner principles rather than external pressures. What might your need to constantly explain yourself be protecting you from discovering about your own natural authority? Chapter 4. The 3-second rule. Advanced presence protocols. The 3-second rule isn't about counting. It's about creating a brief space between stimulus and response where you can choose presence over reactivity. This seemingly simple pause contains sophisticated psychological principles that most people never learn. Here's how it works in practice. When someone challenges you, criticizes your idea, or creates tension in a room, your nervous system immediately prepares for fight or flight. Most people either attack back or withdraw defensively, but the 3-second rule creates a third option. You pause, breathe, and respond from centeredness rather than reactivity. During those 3 seconds, you're doing several things simultaneously. First, you're allowing your parasympathetic nervous system to engage, which automatically relaxes your facial muscles and opens your posture. Second, you're giving yourself time to access what Stoics called right thinking, responding from principles rather than emotions. Third, you're demonstrating to everyone watching that you're comfortable with discomfort, which is perhaps the most powerful form of presence. Have you ever noticed how the person who can stay calm during conflict often ends up leading the solution? The gravitational effect happens because most people are so used to immediate reactions that your measured response feels almost supernatural. You become the calm center while others swirl in reactivity around you. Advanced practitioners learn to use strategic silence as a form of communication itself. When someone makes an unreasonable demand, instead of immediately explaining why you can't comply, you simply pause and look at them steadily for 3 seconds. This silence communicates more than any argument could. It says you're considering their request seriously while maintaining your own boundaries. In negotiations, the person who can be comfortable with silence typically holds the power. In social situations, the person who doesn't need to entertain others often becomes the most interesting person in the room. In conflicts, the person who can pause before reacting usually finds the most creative solutions. Isn't it fascinating how our culture treats silence like a problem to be solved rather than a space for wisdom to emerge? The 3-second rule works because it interrupts our cultural programming to perform, react, or prove ourselves. Instead, it creates space for genuine response, what Marcus Aurelius would recognize as acting from the ruling faculty rather than being controlled by external circumstances. Chapter 5. Presence as cultural revolution. When you master genuine presence, you're not just improving your social interactions, You're engaging in a form of cultural resistance against a system designed to keep you anxious, reactive, and constantly seeking external validation. Think about how the attention economy profits from your inability to be still. Every notification, advertisement, and social media platform is engineered to capture your presence and redirect it toward consumption or comparison. Your phone buzzes, and you immediately reach for it. Someone posts an achievement, and you feel compelled to respond. A meeting gets tense, and you rush to fill the silence. The performance theater needs you to believe that presence equals doing more, saying more, achieving more. But ancient Stoic wisdom reveals the opposite. True presence often means doing less, saying less, being more selective about where you invest your attention and energy. When you practice the 3-second rule consistently, you begin to notice how much of social interaction is driven by collective anxiety. People interrupt because they're afraid their ideas won't be heard. They fidget because they're uncomfortable with natural pauses. They overshare because they're seeking connection but don't know how to create it authentically. Have you ever noticed how one person's genuine calm can shift the energy of an entire group? Your stillness becomes a gift to others. It gives them permission to slow down, to think before speaking, to be present rather than performing. This isn't mystical, it's practical psychology. Mirror neurons cause us to unconsciously mirror the emotional states of people around us. When you're genuinely centered, others feel safer to be centered too. In families, this means deeper conversations. In workplaces, it means more thoughtful decision-making. In relationships, it means genuine intimacy rather than constant entertainment. The political implications are fascinating too. In a culture of outrage, reactivity, and polarization, someone who can pause before responding becomes a bridge between opposing sides. What might your addiction to having opinions about everything be protecting you from experiencing? Marcus Aurelius understood that personal presence is inseparable from social responsibility. When you master your own mind, you contribute to the collective sanity. When you refuse to be swept up in cultural hysteria, you provide an anchor point for others who are struggling to find solid ground. Your practice of the performance theater's opposite, authentic presence, becomes a quiet revolution. Chapter 6. The Paradox of Effortless Authority. Here's what most presence training gets completely wrong. They teach you to perform confidence rather than cultivate genuine centeredness. This creates what I call brittle presence. Impressive on the surface but easily shattered under pressure. The counterintuitive truth is that people who truly command rooms often aren't trying to command anything. They're simply so comfortable being themselves that others naturally want to follow their lead. This isn't about charisma or manipulation. It's about the magnetic quality of authentic self-possession. Think about leaders you genuinely respect versus those who seem to be performing leadership. The difference is immediately obvious. Performed authority feels effortful, needy, and ultimately exhausting to watch. Authentic authority feels relaxed, grounded, and somehow refreshing in its lack of pretense. Isn't it fascinating how the people who seem most desperate to be heard are often the ones we listen to least? Meanwhile, those who speak only when they have something meaningful to say command our complete attention. The 3-second rule reveals this paradox perfectly. By pausing before responding, you're doing the opposite of what our culture rewards. You're slowing down instead of speeding up, thinking instead of reacting, being selective instead of constantly available. Yet this less efficient approach creates more influence than any performance ever could. This connects to what psychologists call the approach avoidance paradox. When you're not seeking approval, people want to give it to you. When you're not trying to control outcomes, you often get better results. When you're not performing confidence, you naturally embody it. Have you ever noticed how trying to be funny usually makes you less funny, while people who aren't trying often say the most amusing things. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this extensively, how his most effective leadership came not from asserting his authority, but from embodying the principles he wanted others to follow. He led through example rather than command, presence rather than pressure. The modern implication is profound. In our performance-obsessed culture, simply being genuine has become a competitive advantage. While everyone else is exhausting themselves trying to manage impressions, you're developing the kind of presence that makes impressions irrelevant. You're stepping out of the performance theater entirely and discovering what it means to simply be yourself in public. Chapter 7. The Long Game of Authentic Presence. After years of practicing Stoic presence principles, I've learned something humbling about this work. Mastering your own mind is a lifetime practice, not a weekend workshop skill. The 3-second rule isn't magic. It's a tool that requires consistent practice and honest self-examination. Some days, you'll nail it. You'll pause before reacting, respond from centeredness, and feel that gravitational pull of authentic presence. Other days, you'll catch yourself mid-performance, realize you've been seeking approval, and have to start over. This is exactly what Marcus Aurelius experienced. His meditations weren't written for publication. They were personal reminders to himself about staying centered amid the chaos of leading an empire. Even the most powerful man in the ancient world struggled with presence. The difference is that he treated it as daily practice rather than permanent achievement. Have you ever noticed how the people who claim to have figured it all out are usually the ones you trust least with important decisions? The honest truth about commanding presence is that it's not about becoming untouchable or perfectly composed. It's about developing the capacity to return to centeredness when you notice you've lost it. It's about extending the pause between stimulus and response from 3 seconds to 30 seconds to 3 minutes as situations require. What I've discovered is that this work changes you in ways you don't expect. You become less interested in winning arguments and more interested in understanding perspectives. You become less reactive to criticism and more curious about what you can learn. You become less concerned with how you appear and more focused on how you can serve. The people who are drawn to this kind of presence aren't seeking entertainment or validation. They're seeking the same thing you are: genuine connection with another human being who has done the inner work to be fully present. This doesn't mean you become passive or withdrawn. Marcus Aurelius led armies and made life and death decisions, but he did so from a place of inner stillness rather than ego or reactivity. In our context, this might mean speaking up confidently in meetings, setting clear boundaries in relationships, or taking decisive action when needed, all while maintaining that core of unshakable calm. What might your fear of being seen as boring be protecting you from discovering about the power of authentic stillness? The ultimate goal isn't to command rooms. It's to command yourself. The room commanding thing happens naturally as a side effect. People are drawn to those who have found a way to be genuinely at peace in a chaotic world. Your practice of presence becomes a gift, not just to yourself, but to everyone who encounters you. In a culture of performance and reactivity, your stillness creates space for others to remember who they are beneath all the noise. You become living proof that it's possible to step out of the performance theater without disappearing entirely. The work continues, the practice deepens, and the presence you cultivate ripples outward in ways you may never fully know. I'm curious, have you experienced moments where someone's genuine presence completely shifted the energy of a situation? What did that feel like, and what do you think made the difference? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this exploration of Stoic presence principles resonated with you, consider subscribing to Keys to the Psyche. We dive deep into the intersection of ancient wisdom and modern psychology, always focusing on insights you can actually use to transform your daily experience. Your thoughtful engagement with these ideas is what makes this community special.